Adrian Salcedo opened his eyes after 7 months in a coma, and the first thing he saw was not his wife. It was his mother, Elena, standing beside his hospital bed in Madrid, with a rosary in one hand and a sealed folder in the other. Her lips trembled, as if she were about to pray. Instead, she destroyed him. "Valeria left you, son. She ran away with another man." The heart monitor betrayed what his body could not say. Adrian could barely move. He could barely breathe. But one memory cut through the fog. Valeria stood in their tiny kitchen before dawn, flour on her cheek, packing coffee for the trip that was supposed to change their lives. He remembered the smell of warm pastry. He remembered her tired smile. He remembered how she pressed the paper cup into his hand, as if she were giving him courage. "I'll keep the house warm until you come back," she had whispered. That woman would sell her last pastry before breaking a promise. Then Marta stepped forward, the advisor his mother trusted more than blood, and laid divorce papers across his blanket. No visit, no message, no explanation. Only a story everyone seemed too ready to believe. But Adrian stared at the empty space where his wife should have been, and something colder than fear settled in his chest. Someone had not waited for him to die. They had erased Valeria before he could wake up. Part 1. The first crack in the lie. For several seconds, Adrian could not answer. His mouth opened, but no sound came out. His throat felt scraped raw, as if 7 months of silence had turned into dust inside him. He tried to lift his hand toward the papers, but his fingers only moved an inch against the blanket. Elena saw the effort and covered his hand with hers. "Do not do this to yourself," she whispered. "You just came back to us." But Adrian was looking at the folder. It was too clean, too organized. A sealed folder did not appear beside a hospital bed by accident. Divorce papers did not arrive before a man had even learned how many months of his life were gone. Marta stood near the window in a dark gray suit, calm enough to make the machines around him feel louder. Elena had always called her useful, discreet, and loyal. Now Adrian noticed something else. Marta was not sad. She was waiting.
"Will I be
How long?
all right?"
He forced out. His voice sounded nothing like his own.
It's
Elena
not
bent
looking
closer.
good.
7
we
months,
will
my son.
pray.
The number struck him harder than the pain in his chest. 7 months since the flight to Madrid. 7 months since Valeria had woken before sunrise to make coffee. 7 months since he had kissed the flower from her cheek and told her the contract would change everything. "Valeria," he said. Elena closed her eyes. Marta answered instead. She was informed. Several times. She chose not to come. Adrian turned his head slowly toward her. The movement sent a white flash of pain through his skull. "Chose?" Marta picked up the folder with both hands, as if she were handling evidence in court. "She left Seville shortly after the accident was reported. Your mother tried to be generous. There was an arrangement. Valeria accepted support, then disappeared." Elena tightened her grip on the rosary. "It is better that you know now," she said, "before she hurts you again." Adrian stared at his mother. He remembered Valeria counting coins at the kitchen table so they could pay a mason on time. He remembered Valeria walking in the rain because she had given their last bus fare to a worker whose child was sick. He remembered Valeria refusing to throw away cracked cups because a home did not need perfect things. It needed people who stayed. "No," he whispered. Marta's face softened in a practiced way. Shock can make the mind protect what it wants to believe. Adrian looked at the papers again. "Where's my phone?" Elena glanced at Marta. The glance was small, almost nothing. But Adrian saw it. "It was damaged in the accident," Marta said.
The information
The
you
hospital
requested
sent
is
the
right
personal
here.
effects to the
We've
family
got
office.
everything.
"My old phone," he said. "The one from Seville. We will find it later," Elena said. "Rest first." "No." His breath shook. Now, a nurse entered before anyone could answer. She was young, with tired eyes and a plastic badge that read Clara. She checked the monitor, then the tube near his wrist. Her hand paused when she saw the divorce papers. Marta noticed. "You may leave us," she said. The nurse looked at Adrian, not Marta. "I need to check his medication. Later." Adrian used what little strength he had. "She stays." The room changed. Elena pulled back. Marta's mouth became a thin line. Clara lowered her eyes and continued adjusting the drip. Adrian watched her carefully. "Did my wife come here?" he asked. "Clara froze." Elena stood. "Adrian, please." He did not look away from the nurse. "Did a woman named Valeria Salcedo come to this hospital?" Clara swallowed. "I was not assigned to this floor in the beginning. That is not what I asked." For a moment, only the monitor spoke. Then Clara said, "There was a woman, weeks after the accident. She came to reception more than once. She asked for you by name." Elena's face lost color. Marta stepped forward. "This is inappropriate." Adrian's eyes burned. "What happened?" Clara looked toward the door, then back at him. She was told she was not authorized to visit. The words landed with a force no machine could measure. Not authorized. Valeria, his wife, the woman who had built every hungry year beside him, had been kept outside a hospital room while strangers stood beside his bed with folders. "Who made the list?" he asked.
Tell me.
Marta answered too quickly.
The records are clear.
Hospital protocol.
Everything is accounted
After a major
for.
accident,
There is no
access
error.
is restricted. To family? Yes. Then why was my wife not family? No one answered. Elena pressed the rosary to her lips. "We thought we were protecting you." Adrian turned to her. "From Valeria?" His mother looked away. That was the first crack. Not in the story, in the people telling it. Marta closed the folder. Her voice stayed smooth. "You are weak. This conversation is dangerous for your recovery." Adrian almost laughed, but the pain stopped him. 7 months asleep, and they still thought weakness meant silence. He looked at Clara. "My clothes." Elena stepped toward the bed. "Absolutely not." "My clothes," he repeated. "You cannot even stand." "Then bring a chair." Marta's composure slipped. "Where do you think you are going?" Adrian turned his head toward the window. Morning light had begun to fill the hospital glass. Madrid looked pale and distant, a city that had kept him alive while someone else buried his marriage. He saw Valeria again, not as a memory now, but as a question. Somewhere without a call from him, without a visit, without an explanation. Maybe thinking he had woken and chosen to forget her. The thought hurt worse than the wounds. Adrian closed his fingers around the blanket and forced himself upright. His body trembled. Clara moved to help him, but he shook his head. For the first time since opening his eyes, his voice sounded like it belonged to him. "Call my driver." Elena whispered his name. He did not soften. "Not to the house," he said. "Not to the company." Marta watched him with a kind of fear she could not hide quickly enough. Adrian looked at both women and spoke the name of the place they had hoped he would never remember. "Take me to Triana." Years before Madrid, before the hospital machines, before the sealed folder on Adrian's blanket. There was Triana. At 4 a.m, Valeria Rios pushed her small coffee cart into place beside Don Ismael's bakery. The street was still dark. The shutters were cold. The air smelled of rain, orange peel, and warm bread. She locked the cart wheels with her foot, opened the wooden box under the counter, and laid out paper cups, sugar, cinnamon, and a tray of ensaimadas. Her recipe was not traditional. Don Ismael reminded her of that often. "You use orange peel," he said one morning. "My mother would call that a crime." Valeria smiled and dusted the pastries with sugar. "Then your mother would still buy 2. The workers came first. Bricklayers, drivers, tile setters, men with cracked hands and tired eyes. Valeria knew who could pay and who needed another day. She never embarrassed them. She only placed a tiny dot beside their names in her notebook. To anyone else, it looked like a coffee ledger. It was not. Between orders, Valeria wrote down everything Adrian forgot. A mason named Tomas needed half his pay early because his daughter was sick. A supplier from Dos Hermanas delivered cement bags that felt too light. A foreman named Rafael worked better with written plans than verbal instructions. A client in Nervión wanted a repair job, but would not pay unless Adrian brought a stamped estimate. Valeria wrote it all in careful lines, beside coffee stains and crumbs of sugar. By 7 inches the morning, Adrian usually arrived with rolled blueprints under one arm and worry under his eyes. Back then, no one called him a visionary. No investor returned his calls. No bank wanted to hear about a young builder with debt, pride, and no family money. He was only Adrian Salcedo, a man trying not to fail. Valeria always handed him coffee before he spoke. "Bad news?" she would ask. "Not bad," he would say. "Complicated." That was how Adrian described everything that could destroy them. One Friday, he sat behind the cart and covered his face. "We cannot pay the crew." Valeria kept serving coffee. "How much are we missing?" He did not answer. "How much, Adrian?" 840 euros. The number stayed between them. Valeria reached under her collar and removed the thin gold chain her mother had left her. She placed it beside his cup. "No," he said. "Yes." "Valeria, I cannot take that." "You are not taking it. You are paying the men. He looked at the necklace as if it hurt him. I will buy it back. You will pay them first. Then she said the sentence he would remember for the rest of his life. A building does not begin with a roof. It begins with someone brave enough to lay the first stone. Adrian paid the crew. The men stayed. That was the first time Valeria saved the company. It was not the last. 3 months later, Adrian won his first real renovation job near Calle Pureza. They had no office, no assistant, and no conference room. Only the small table behind Valeria's cart after the morning rush. Don Ismael lent them a pen. Valeria flattened a sheet of brown pastry paper and held the corner down with a sugar jar, while Adrian copied the contract terms. That first agreement carried the smell of butter. Years later, Salcedo Group would keep a scanned copy in its archive. No one on the board knew why the edge of the paper had a grease mark shaped like a thumb. Valeria knew. Adrian knew. And one day, Marta Beltran would know too. The first serious danger came through a steel delivery. It was supposed to be routine. Reinforcement bars for a stairwell. Adrian was on site, arguing with a client about a change in the landing. Valeria arrived with coffee for the workers and saw the label on the metal bundle. She stopped. The code was almost right. Almost. The order in her notebook said SV-19. The label on the steel said SB-19. One letter different. Easy to miss if a person looked too fast. Valeria did not. She called Adrian over. He frowned. It is the same supplier. It is not the same batch. The foreman checked it. Then check it again. He almost argued. He was tired, late, and afraid to look inexperienced in front of the crew. But Valeria did not raise her voice. That made him listen. They sent the steel for inspection. It failed. If those bars had gone into the stairwell, the structure might have cracked under load. Maybe not that week, maybe not that year. But one day, someone could have paid for that mistake with blood. Adrienne stood beside the rejected steel in silence. Valeria opened her notebook and circled the correct code in red. After that, he stopped calling it her coffee ledger. He called it the second office. But success changes the rooms people are allowed to enter. Within 5 years, Adrian had trucks with his name on the doors, then a real office, then a glass building, then contracts large enough to make men who once ignored him ask for lunch. Valeria changed less. She still kept receipts, still remembered workers' names, still knew which supplier lied about dates, still noticed numbers that did not belong. Elena Salcedo hated that. Not openly at first. At first, she called Valeria simple, then provincial, then unsuitable, always with a smile sharp enough to wound without leaving proof. At family dinners, Elena looked at Valeria's hands. "You still smell of coffee," she once said. Valeria answered softly. "That is better than smelling of nothing." Adrian laughed. Elena did not. What Elena feared was not poverty itself. She had known poverty once, in a childhood she never discussed. What she feared was being dragged back toward it. Valeria reminded her of narrow kitchens, unpaid bills, and women who survived by making miracles from leftovers. So Elena turned shame into elegance. She corrected Valeria's dress, her accent, her silence. Then, when years passed without a child, Elena found the wound that hurt most. "A family line cannot be built on pastries," she said one evening. The table went quiet. Adrian put down his glass. "My family is my wife." Elena's face hardened. "She has given you no heir. She gave me a life." That night, Marta Beltran sat at the same table. She had been introduced as a legal advisor for the Madrid expansion. Efficient, educated, calm. She listened more than she spoke, and Elena liked that. Adrian barely noticed her. Valeria did. Marta asked too many careful questions. Who kept the early contracts? Who knew the first suppliers? Who handled records before the company hired accountants? When Valeria said, "I did," Marta smiled. Not kindly, carefully. 2 weeks later, Adrian prepared to fly to Madrid for the contract that would make Salcedo Group national. Valeria packed his coffee before dawn, the same way she had when they had nothing. He kissed her in the kitchen. "When I come back, we celebrate." She touched his coat collar and smiled. "I will keep the house warm." The plane he was supposed to take never reached Madrid. The first report said there were no survivors. By sunset, Elena was no longer crying alone. Marta sat beside her in the Salcedo house, with a legal pad on her knees and a voice soft enough to sound like comfort. "I know this is cruel to discuss now," Marta said. "But if Adrian is gone, Everything must be protected. Elena stared at her. Protected from whom? Marta paused, just long enough. Then she said the name that would become the first lie. Valeria. The day Valeria lost her husband did not begin with shouting. It began with a phone call. She was in the kitchen of the Salcedo house, washing the cup Adrian had used before leaving for Madrid. The coffee stain still marked the rim. She smiled at it, because he always drank too fast when he was nervous. Then the television in the next room changed its tone. A breaking report. A flight on the Madrid route had gone down. For a moment, Valeria did not understand the words. She only saw the map, then the route number, then Elena's scream from the sitting room. By noon, the house was full of people. Relatives, company officers, a priest, 2 men from the legal department. Marta Beltran arrived before sunset, dressed in black, carrying a leather folder and speaking in a low voice to Elena. Valeria tried to leave for Madrid that night. Marta stopped her at the door. The authorities are not allowing unnecessary movement yet. I am his wife. Marta looked at her gently, as if kindness were a tool. And that is why you must be careful. If there are survivors, access will be controlled. Valeria did not sleep. The next morning, she packed a small bag. Adrian's sweater, their wedding photo, the old apartment key she still wore on a chain. Before she reached the gate, Elena stood in front of her. You are not going anywhere with my son's name. Valeria stared at her. What? Elena's eyes were red, but her voice had turned hard. You were never right for him. Not before, not now. Behind her, Marta said nothing. That silence gave Elena permission. They took Valeria's phone first. Elena said the family office needed to preserve all communications. Then the bank cards, because the accounts were under review. Then her identity documents, because Marta claimed the lawyers had to verify the estate. Each theft sounded like procedure. Each procedure cut away another piece of her life. When Valeria reached for the framed wedding photo, Elena slapped her hand down. Leave what belongs to this house. Valeria did not cry. Not then. She only looked at the woman who had turned grief into a weapon and said, If Adrian is alive, he will ask for me. Elena answered, If he is alive, I will make sure he survives you. By evening, Valeria stood outside the gate with one canvas bag. No phone, no cards, no documents, and the key to the first apartment hidden beneath her dress. The security camera above the gate blinked red. Later, the report would say it was under maintenance. Valeria walked back to Triana in shoes meant for a funeral. Don Ismail found her before dawn, sitting on the curb beside his bakery. He did not ask many questions. He opened the side door and gave her coffee. You can put your cart here again, he said. I have nothing to sell. You have hands. So she began again. A borrowed stove, a cracked tray, flour bought on credit, coffee measured carefully because every spoonful mattered. By the end of the first week, Valeria had a corner of the market and a sign written on cardboard. Coffee, pastries, pay when you can. On the third week, she fainted while lifting a sack of flour. Don Ismail carried her to a small clinic 2 streets away. The doctor pressed the monitor to Valeria's stomach, then paused. Valeria gripped the edge of the table. What is wrong? The doctor looked at the screen once more. Nothing is wrong. She turned the monitor so Valeria could see. There are 3 heartbeats. For the first time since the gate closed behind her, Valeria cried. Not because she was afraid, because Adrian was not there to hear them. In the present, Adrian returned to the Salcedo house before Triana. Not because he wanted to rest, because a lie always leaves fingerprints. He came through the front door with a cane in one hand and Clara's words burning in his mind. Not authorized. Elena hurried down the stairs. You should be in bed. I should have been told the truth. Marta followed behind her, already composed. Adrian, this is not the time for accusations. He ignored her and walked toward the bedroom he had once shared with Valeria. The door opened onto a room too clean to be alive. Her blue shawl was gone. The cracked white cup she used every morning was gone. The small wooden box where she kept old receipts was gone. Even the faint smell of orange peel and coffee had been scrubbed from the air. Adrian stood in the doorway. You erased the room. Elena said, I was trying to spare you. From my wife's shawl? No answer. He opened drawers. Empty. Closet. Empty. Bedside table. Empty. Except for a hotel brochure he had never seen before. Madrid. Luxury suites. 2 names written in Marta's handwriting on the back. Valeria Rios. Luis Ortega. Marta reached for it. Adrian closed his fist around the paper. Who is Luis? A man she was seen with, Marta said. We did not want to hurt you with details. He looked at her. You seem very ready with details. A sound came from the hallway. Inés, one of the older housekeepers, stood with a laundry basket in her arms. Inés, he said quietly. What happened here? She looked at Elena, then at Marta. Answer me. The basket shook in her hands. Señora Valeria did not leave, sir. Elena whispered. Enough. Inés flinched but kept going. She begged to go to Madrid. She begged for her phone. They changed the gate code after she was put outside. Adrian's grip tightened on the cane. What day? The day after the first report. Marta stepped forward. This employee is confused. Adrian turned on her. No. I am the one who was confused. He looked again at the empty room. For 7 months, Valeria had been missing from his life. But now he understood. She had not disappeared. She had been removed. Adrian folded the hotel brochure and placed it in his coat pocket. Then he looked at Inés. Where would she go? The old housekeeper's eyes filled with tears. Triana, she said. If the world closed every door, she would go back to the first one that ever opened for you both. Adrian did not look at his mother again. He walked out of the house, past the polished floors, past the portraits, past the gate that had once shut his pregnant wife into the street. At the car, he gave the driver one instruction. Find Don Ismael. Triana had not changed enough to forgive him. That was the first thing Adrian felt when the car stopped near the market. The same stone streets, the same iron balconies, the same smell of coffee, river air, and bread behind metal shutters. But he was different. He stepped out slowly, leaning on his cane. Every movement pulled at his ribs. His body still belonged partly to the hospital bed. Yet his mind had already gone ahead of him, searching corners, stalls, and windows for Valeria's shadow. The driver reached to help him. Adrian shook his head. I need to walk. People recognized him slowly. First the cane, then the face, then the name. Their voices lowered as he passed. A powerful man could enter Triana and still feel like an intruder. He found Don Ismael outside the old bakery, stacking trays near the door. The baker saw the cane first, then the man holding it. For a long moment, he said nothing. Don Ismael, Adrian said. The old man wiped his hands on his apron. So the dead return. Adrian accepted the blow. I woke 3 days ago. And she? The question struck before Adrian could defend himself. I'm trying to find her. Now? I did not know. Don Ismael studied him. Around them, the market kept moving, but several vendors had stopped pretending not to listen. She came back with nothing, the baker said. No phone, no documents, no money, just a canvas bag and that little key around her neck. Adrian gripped the cane. Where is she? Don Ismael pointed down the row of stalls. Follow what you remember. Adrian turned. At first, he heard only the market. Crates scraping, coins falling, vendors calling prices. Then he smelled it. Butter, orange pale. Sugar burned slightly at the edge. His chest tightened. The scent came from a small coffee cart under a faded green awning. A cardboard sign hung from the front. Coffee, pastries, pay when you can. A woman stood behind the cart, wrapping ensaimadas in brown paper. Adrian could not see her face, only her hands. She dusted the sugar unevenly on the left side. She folded the paper twice so the heat would not burn the customer's fingers. Then she slipped an extra pastry into the bag of a boy who had paid for only coffee. 7 months of lies fell silent before one familiar gesture. Valeria, he said. The woman froze. Slowly, she turned. Her face was thinner. Her eyes were darker. Her hair was tied back with a strip of blue cloth he remembered from their old kitchen. Beneath her worn coat, her stomach rose round and undeniable. Adrian took 1 step forward. She took 1 step back. That hurt more than the cane. Valeria, he said again. You are alive, she whispered. I woke 3 days ago. Her eyes searched his face. 3 days? Yes. Not 7 months? No. Pain crossed her expression first. Not joy. Not relief. The pain of realizing how completely they had both been deceived. I went to Madrid, she said. They would not let me see you. I know. I sent letters. I never received them. They took my phone. I know that too. She looked toward the street, as if Elena might appear even here. Adrian moved closer, slower this time. I came as soon as I knew. Valeria's hand went to her stomach. He looked down. How far? 6 months. His face changed. Valeria stood straighter. There are 3. The market seemed to fall away. 3. For a moment, Adrian was no longer a chief executive officer, no longer a man recovering from death. He was only a husband looking at the life he had almost lost without knowing it existed. He reached toward her. Valeria did not take his hand. I thought you had chosen silence, she said. I was unconscious. And after? I woke into their story. Then I came looking for yours. Her eyes filled, but she blinked the tears back. That does not erase the gate, or the guards, or the day I begged for my documents, while your mother called me a danger to your name. I know. No, Adrian, you do not know. She touched the cart beside her. This is what I had when your house closed. This, Don Ismael's flower, and 3 heartbeats I had to protect before I knew how to protect myself. He looked at the cracked tray, the borrowed stove, the cardboard sign. Shame moved through him quietly. Come home with me, he said. Valeria's face hardened. Home? Our home. That house stopped being mine the moment they could remove me from it. I will make them answer. Good, she said. But do not mistake that for bringing me back. Adrian flinched. I want to protect you. I do not want to be hidden in a room until your lawyers decide I am safe to exist. That is not what I mean. It is what powerful men mean when they are afraid. Her voice softened, but only slightly. If I go with you, I go as your wife. In daylight, with my name spoken clearly. Adrian looked at her for a long time. Then he nodded. You are right. Valeria waited for pride to rise in him. It did not. Adrian turned toward the watching market. My wife is alive, he said, loud enough for the nearest stalls to hear. She was kept from me, and I am going to find out who did it. Valeria's hand tightened on the cart. For the first time, she looked afraid for him. Adrian, she said, if you pull at this lie, it will not stop with your mother. He turned back. What do you mean? Valeria reached beneath the cart and touched the hidden pocket sewn into her canvas bag. Because before they took my phone, I kept something they did not know how to steal. Valeria did not open the hidden pocket in the market. Too many eyes were watching. Too many vendors were already whispering into phones. In Triana, news traveled faster than cars. By noon, Elena would know. By evening, Marta would know too. Valeria closed the cart early and asked Don Ismael to watch the tray. Then she led Adrian through the side alley beside the bakery, into the small storage room where she had slept her first week back. The room was barely large enough for 2 people. A narrow cot stood against the wall. A kettle sat on a crate. Beside it, 3 baby blankets rested inside a cardboard box marked sugar. Adrian saw them and went still. Valeria noticed, but did not soften. Do not look at them like a wound, she said. He lowered his eyes. I am sorry, I know, but sorry will not feed them. It will not give them a name, and it will not tell me why your family needed me gone. She sat on the cot, opened a hidden pocket beneath the bag lining, and removed a notebook wrapped in cloth. Adrian recognized it before she uncovered it. The coffee ledger. The second office. Valeria laid it on the crate between them. They took my phone, she said. They took my cards. They took my documents. They even took the wedding photo from my hand. But they did not search the flour bag. Adrian reached toward the notebook, then stopped. May I? That question changed something small in Valeria's face. She nodded. He opened the first pages. There were coffee orders, worker names, small debts. Then the entries changed. Cement deliveries, tile deposits, crew advances, names of clients from years ago. The first salary list written in blue ink. Adrian touched one page with shaking fingers. This was the week I almost lost Raphael's crew. You were too proud to tell them we were short. You pawned your mother's chain. I paid the men. I should have noticed what it cost. The words were not cruel. That made them worse. He turned another page and found the steel code circled in red, SV-19. Below it, in smaller writing, Valeria had copied the wrong label. SB-19. Beside the note was a line he did not remember reading. If they can change one letter on steel, they can change one number on paper. Adrian looked up. What does that mean? At first, only a warning to myself, Valeria said. Then Marta asked who kept the early records. She asked twice. The second time, she asked whether any old supplier codes were still written by hand. Adrian's face tightened. She knew about this notebook. She knew I had memory she could not control. Valeria turned to the back section. Several pages had been folded inward. Inside them were receipts and scraps of paper. The pawn ticket for her mother's chain. A photocopy of the first contract, still stained by butter at the edge. A list of early suppliers. At the bottom, Adrian saw a name underlined twice. Marea Azul Holdings. He had seen that name before. On the hotel brochure Marta had tried to take from his hand. "Why is this here?" he asked. "Because it appeared once before. Years ago. Not as a partner. As a billing address hidden behind a materials invoice. I thought it was a mistake. Then the invoice disappeared from the company archive. When? After Marta joined the Madrid expansion. The storage room felt smaller. Adrian sat on the crate because his leg could not hold him. A mother's cruelty. A story built to keep Valeria away from his bed. But the notebook suggested something wider. Older. More profitable. Valeria watched him understand. "Marta did not erase you only because my mother hated you," he said. "No. She erased the person who remembered where the company came from, and where some of the wrong names first appeared. For years, the world had praised him as a self-made man. He had accepted it because he thought loving Valeria privately was enough. But the proof on his knees said otherwise. He had built towers. Valeria had held the first stones in place. He looked at the cot, the blankets, the ledger. Then he looked at his wife. "I will take this to the board." Valeria closed the notebook before he could lift it. "No, Valeria, this proves everything. It proves enough to make them afraid, not enough to make them stop. I can protect it. You could not protect me when your house still had my clothes in it." The sentence entered him cleanly. No shouting, no tears, only truth. Adrian nodded once. "You are right." Valeria expected him to argue. Instead, he pulled the hotel brochure from his coat and placed it beside the notebook. "Marta planted this in our room. Your name. A man named Luis Ortega. She wanted me to find it." Valeria's face changed. "Luis helped me request temporary documents." "I believe you." She looked at him carefully. "Say that again." "I believe you." Then Valeria removed one last paper, a clinic form, folded into quarters. 3 small heartbeats had been printed across the top. "I am not asking you to save me," she said. "I am asking you to stand where everyone can see you when you tell the truth." Adrian took the form with both hands. "I will." Outside, Don Ismail knocked once on the door. "Valeria, there is a woman at the stall asking who bought pastries from you this morning." Valeria and Adrian looked at each other. Marta had already begun looking for the ledger. By the time Adrian returned to Salcedo Group, the building already knew. News of his recovery had moved through the company like electricity. Assistants stopped typing when he crossed the lobby. Engineers stood too quickly. Men who had sent flowers to his hospital room now lowered their eyes, unsure whether they were looking at a survivor or a problem. Adrian did not go to his office first. He went to the archive floor. The old records room sat behind 2 glass doors and a keypad. Years ago, he had promised Valeria that every early document would be preserved, not because the company needed them, because she had touched them. The archivist, a thin man named Sergio, almost dropped his access card when he saw him. "Sir, we were told you would not return until next week." "Who told you that?" Sergio hesitated. "Marta Beltran's office." Adrian held out his hand. "The Madrid expansion files." Sergio swallowed. "Those are restricted." "By whom?" Another pause. "Marta Beltran's office." Adrian looked at the keypad, then at him. "Sergio, I woke from a coma 3 days ago. If my own company has decided I am a visitor, say it clearly." The archivist's face flushed. He opened the door. Inside, the room smelled of paper, toner, and cold air. Shelves ran from floor to ceiling. Each contract box carried a white label, a project code, and a red dot if the document had been scanned into the digital archive. Adrian asked for the first renovation file from Calle Pureza. Sergio brought a gray box. The paper copy was still there. Brown pastry paper, grease mark on the edge, his young signature, Valeria's small handwriting in the margin, correcting a payment date. He touched the page once, then closed the box. Now he knew what honest paper looked like. "Madrid," he said. The Madrid box was different. Too new, too clean. No dust on the lid, no handwritten correction slips, no coffee stains, no fingerprints, no life. Inside were printed contracts, board approvals, insurance attachments, supplier appendices, and a digital authorization sheet bearing Adrian's signature. His signature, dated 6 weeks after the accident. Adrian stared at it. Sergio saw his face and stepped back. Was this scanned from an old authorization? Adrian asked. I do not know, sir. Find the metadata. Sergio went to the terminal. His fingers moved fast, but fear made him clumsy. A file opened, created during Adrian's coma, uploaded from an internal account assigned to Marta's legal team. Authorized by proxy. Adrian read the line twice. Proxy authorization valid under emergency continuity clause. He had approved that clause years earlier for earthquakes, sudden death, and national emergencies, not for someone to move his company while he lay unable to speak. Print it, he said. Sergio did. Then Adrian opened the supplier appendix. There it was. Marea Azul Holdings. Registered address. A serviced office in Malaga. Capital contribution. Minimal. Material supply scope. Structural steel. Reinforcement grids. Load-bearing connectors. One supplier for 3 categories that should never have been bundled together without technical review. A memory rose in him. Valeria in the storage room, pointing at the red circle in her notebook. If they can change 1 letter on steel, they can change 1 number on paper. He turned the page. Batch reference, SB-19. His body went cold. That wrong code had returned, not as a mistake in a small stairwell, as part of a national expansion contract. Before he could read further, the glass door opened. Marta stepped in, carrying a tablet and a smile that did not reach her eyes. Adrian, you should have told me you were coming. We could have prepared a cleaner summary. I am tired of clean summaries. Her gaze moved to the papers on the table. You are recovering. Complex documents can be misread under medical stress. Then explain them. With pleasure. In a proper board setting. Now. Marta placed the tablet down. Maria Azul is a vetted subcontracting structure. The emergency authorization was legal. Your mother approved continuity measures while you were missing. I was not dead. No. But for months, the company did not know whether you would wake. And Valeria? The name changed the air. Marta's expression softened into concern. I understand you found her. You understand many things before I tell you. She is vulnerable, pregnant, angry. That makes her easy to use. By whom? By anyone who wants access to you. Adrian pushed the authorization sheet toward her. This was uploaded while I was unconscious. It was uploaded to save the Madrid deal. And the wrong steel code? For the first time, Marta blinked too slowly. Then she smiled. A clerical carryover. Nothing more. From a supplier Valeria questioned years ago. Marta folded her hands. Valeria sold coffee, Adrian. Do not turn nostalgia into due diligence. Sergio looked down. Adrian did not move. There it was. The first attack. Not shouted, not vulgar. Just one sentence that tried to put Valeria back behind a cart where no board member would have to listen to her. He gathered the printed sheets. Marta's voice lowered. If you bring street memories into a national contract, you will frighten investors. If you publicly connect your pregnant wife to these files, the press will devour her. My wife's name is not a weakness. No, Marta said. But your guilt is. His phone rang before he answered. Elena. He let it ring. Marta watched the screen. Your mother is worried. My mother helped remove Valeria from my life. She was grieving. And you? Marta did not answer. That silence told him more than a confession. Adrian turned to Sergio. Make certified copies of the Madrid file. Full appendices. Upload logs. Proxy authorization. Supplier registration. Sergio nodded. Marta stepped toward him. Sergio, I would advise you to wait for legal clearance. Adrian looked at the archivist. You have legal clearance from the man whose signature they used. Sergio made the copies. When Adrian left the archive, he carried a folder of his own. Not sealed. Not clean. Alive with fingerprints, timestamps, and the first proof that Valeria had not only been erased from a marriage, she had been erased from a warning. Marta did not attack Valeria at once. That was what made her dangerous. She waited 2 days, long enough for Adrian to believe he was moving first, long enough for certified copies to reach his private safe, long enough for him to visit Valeria every morning in Triana, and leave, before the market grew crowded. On the 3rd evening, Elena called a family council at the Salcedo house. Not a board meeting, not officially, just a dinner. That was the first lie. Adrian arrived alone because Valeria had refused to enter that house before her name was cleared. The dining room looked exactly as it had on the night Elena first called her unsuitable. Same silver candles, same white flowers, same portraits watching from the walls. Only now, there were lawyers at the table, 2 cousins from the company, a communications director, and Marta, seated beside Elena, as if she had always belonged there. Elena began with grief. "We have all suffered," she said. "My son has returned to us, and for that we thank God. But he has returned vulnerable." Adrian looked at the empty chair beside him, the chair that should have been Valeria's. Marta continued before he could speak. "Vulnerability invites manipulation. We must be careful about people who reappear at exactly the right moment." Adrian's voice stayed low. "Say her name." Marta folded her hands. "Valeria." Elena looked down, as if the name itself offended her. Marta turned to the others. "She is pregnant. She is emotional. She is financially unstable. She has been living from a coffee cart in Triana. None of that makes her evil, but it does make her position convenient." "Convenient for whom?" Adrian asked. "For anyone who wants influence over you." A cousin cleared his throat. The communications director avoided Adrian's eyes. The lawyers wrote nothing, which told him they had been briefed already. Adrian stood. "My wife was kept from my hospital room." Marta sighed, according to one nurse. "And from my house." Elena's face tightened. "I was protecting this family. From a pregnant woman without a phone." The room went still. Marta's eyes sharpened. "So she told you about the pregnancy?" Adrian turned slowly. "You knew?" No one moved. Elena looked at Marta. That was enough. Adrian felt the answer, before anyone spoke. Marta recovered first. "We heard rumors. Nothing confirmed." "Rumors from whom?" "Triana is not a private place." Adrian stepped away from the table. "No, it is not. Which means people there saw what happened after you threw her out." Marta's voice softened. "People see many things. They also misunderstand many things." She lifted her tablet. The screen came alive. A video appeared on the dining room wall. Rain. A narrow street. Valeria, thinner, holding her coat closed over her stomach. A man beside her held an umbrella. He touched her elbow. She leaned toward him as they entered the doorway of a small hotel. The room inhaled. Elena covered her mouth. "There," Marta whispered. "This is what we did not want to show you." Adrian stared at the screen. The man's face was blurred by rain, but the hotel brochure from the bedroom flashed in his mind. "Luis Ortega." Marta let the silence grow. "While you were in a coma, Valeria was seen entering a hotel with this man." Adrian looked once at the video, then at Marta. "Play the next minute." Marta paused. "There is no next minute." "Why?" "That is the file we received." "Received from whom?" "Our press contact." "Convenient." Marta's smile thinned. The communications director finally spoke. "If this reaches the media before we control it, the story will be brutal. A missing wife, a pregnancy, another man. Investors will panic." Adrian heard the trap close. This was not a dinner. It was a rehearsal. They wanted him to say yes to containment. To let them hide Valeria again, this time under the word protection. His phone vibrated. A message from Don Ismael. "They are asking about Luis at the market." Then a second message. "A reporter is here." Marta watched his face and knew the strike had landed. "You see," she said, "this is already spreading." Across the city, Valeria was closing her cart when the first camera appeared. A young reporter stepped in front of her before she could lift the tray. "Señora Valeria, did you have a relationship with Luis Ortega while your husband was unconscious?" Valeria froze. Don Ismael moved between them. "She is working." The reporter leaned around him. "Is it true you accepted money from the Salcedo family and disappeared?" Valeria's hand went to the edge of the cart. Customers stared. Phones rose. Someone whispered her name as if it had become evidence. She took one breath, then another. "No," she said. The reporter pushed closer. "Then who is Luis Ortega?" Valeria looked directly into the camera. "He is the social worker who helped me request temporary documents after my phone, cards, and identification were taken." The reporter blinked. That answer was not the scandal she had been sent to collect. Valeria continued, her voice steady. "If you want to ask why I needed temporary documents, ask the people who locked me out of my own life." Back at the Salcedo house, Adrian's phone rang. "Valeria." He answered in front of everyone. "Are you safe?" "For now," she said. "But they came to the market." "I know." "Then listen to me. Do not bury this." He looked at Marta. "I will not." Valeria's voice softened. but it did not break. If they want daylight, give them daylight. Adrian ended the call and faced the room. My wife will not be hidden. Marta rose. Then you are choosing scandal. No, Adrian said. I am choosing the full video. For the first time that night, Marta lost her smile. Adrian found Valeria after the reporters left. She was behind Don Ismail's bakery, sitting on an upside-down flour bucket with both hands pressed under her stomach. The market had finally grown quiet, but the quiet felt like the pause after glass breaks. Don Ismail stood at the alley entrance with his arms crossed. No cameras, he said. Adrian nodded. No cameras. Valeria did not look up. Did they show you the video? Yes. And I asked for the full version. That made her look at him. Asked whom? Marta. Valeria gave a tired smile. That is like asking the knife who made the wound. He deserved that. Adrian lowered himself onto a crate across from her. His legs shook, but he did not mention the pain. A private car waited 2 streets away. Inside it were a doctor, a lawyer, and a security man. He had thought that would comfort her. Now he was not sure. I have a plan, he said. Valeria closed her eyes. Those words frighten me now. Listen first. She opened her eyes again. I can move you tonight. A private apartment near the river. Quiet building. Medical support. Security at the entrance. No press. For how long? Until I finish reviewing the Madrid file. And until your board decides what story is safest. No. Then until your lawyers write a sentence about me that sounds clean enough to print? Adrian's jaw tightened. I am trying to protect you. Valeria looked toward the market, where her coffee cart stood under the green awning. That is what your mother said when she took my phone. He flinched. She did not apologize. I know you are not Elena, she said. But listen to your own words. Move me. Guard me. Wait. Review. Control. Every verb puts me in a room someone else chose. The alley seemed to narrow around him. I almost lost you, Adrian said. You did lose me. His breath caught. For 7 months, she continued. I had to become visible to strangers because your family made me invisible to you. The baker knew where I slept. The clinic knew my children had heartbeats. Luis knew I needed temporary documents. The market knew I worked until my ankles swelled. And now that everyone is forced to look, you want me out of sight again. I want you alive and safe. I want my name back. The words were not loud. They did not need to be. Adrian looked at her hands, flour in the lines of her fingers, a small burn near her wrist. He remembered those hands holding his first contract flat on pastry paper. He had admired her strength in private. Private admiration had not protected her. What do you want? He asked. Valeria reached into her canvas bag and took out the folded clinic form with the 3 printed heartbeats. I want our children born into the truth, not into a press strategy. Then she took out another page, a temporary document request, stamped by a public assistance office. Adrian saw the date. The day after Elena threw her out. The location line made him pause. Triana Riverside Hotel, Conference Room B. Valeria tapped it once. That hotel in Marta's video was being used as a temporary document center. The municipal office had water damage that week. Luis was assigned there. Adrian stared at the paper. Why did you not show this to the reporter? Because a woman surrounded by cameras should not have to prove she is not guilty of surviving. He folded the page carefully. This clears you. It explains one piece. Marta will twist another. She cannot twist everything. Valeria looked at him for a long moment. Then do not help her. Adrian frowned. I would never. You already almost did. The alley went still. She saw the hurt in him, but kept going. When you said we should wait until the Madrid file was reviewed, I heard what came first. That is not fair. No. What happened to me was not fair. This is only true. He stood too quickly, and pain cut through his side. Valeria reached toward him by instinct, then stopped herself before touching him. That stopped movement broke him more than any accusation. I am afraid, he said. Valeria waited. I am afraid Marta will destroy you before I can stop her. I am afraid the stress will hurt the babies. I am afraid that every mistake I make now will become another door closing in your face. Her expression softened, but did not surrender. Then stopped choosing doors. Adrian looked at her. Stand beside me, she said. Not in front of me, not above me, beside me. If I walk into Salcedo Group, I walk in daylight. If I speak, I use my own voice. If I fall, you help me stand. But you do not decide that silence is safer for me. For years, Adrian had built things by controlling pressure, weight, risk, and timing. Now the woman who had taught him the first stone was asking him to give up control. He nodded. "Tomorrow morning," he said. "We go together." Valeria held his gaze. "No back door. No back door. No statement without my words. No statement without your words. No apartment chosen before I choose it. No apartment." She almost smiled. Then Don Ismael called from the alley entrance. "Adrian, a man from your company is at the cart. He says legal needs Valeria's notebook." Valeria's face went cold. Adrian turned toward the market. Marta had stopped asking to see the evidence. Now she was coming to take it. The man at Valeria's cart wore a company badge and a polite expression. That made him more dangerous than the reporters. He stood beside the green awning with a black folder under one arm, careful not to touch the cracked counter, the sugar bowl, or anything that might make him look connected to the market. "My name is Alvaro Ruiz," he said. "Legal compliance. Salcedo Group." Valeria did not move from the alley. Adrian stepped forward. "Who sent you?" Alvaro's confidence weakened when he saw him. "Sir, I was told to deliver a notice." "By Marta." "I was told to deliver a notice," he repeated. Don Ismael reached for the paper first, but Alvaro held it back. "It must be received by Señora Valeria Rios." Valeria came out slowly. Her face had gone calm, and the way Adrian was beginning to understand meant danger. "Read it," she said. Alvaro opened the folder. The document was short. That was how legal threats like to dress themselves. It stated that Valeria Rios was in possession of confidential records belonging to Salcedo Group. It demanded immediate return of all notebooks, copies, receipts, supplier lists, archive contract materials, and any derivative documents. Failure to comply could be treated as theft, extortion, or unlawful retention of corporate property. The market seemed to shrink around her. "Theft?" Valeria asked. Alvaro looked down. "I am only delivering the notice." Adrian took the page from his hand. "This is not authorized by me. It was issued under emergency legal continuity." There it was again. The same clause. The same stolen doorway. Valeria laughed once, without humor. "They took my phone. They took my documents. Now they want the only thing they forgot to steal." Alvaro shifted his weight. "If the notebook contains company material, it must be returned." Valeria stepped closer. "That notebook existed before your company had a reception desk. Señora, please do not make this harder." Adrian turned to him. "Leave." Alvaro hesitated. "Sir, I was also asked to confirm whether copies have been made." Adrian's eyes sharpened. "That was not a notice. That was a search." Don Ismael moved closer to the cart. "No one touches her things." Alvaro lifted both hands and backed away. "I will report non-compliance." "Report the truth," Adrian said. But the truth was already being rewritten. By evening, the first article appeared online. Former wife of Salcedo Group Chief Executive Officer, accused of withholding company documents. Then another. Pregnant market vendor claims ties to Madrid contract files. Then a third, uglier one. Was the comeback planned? Valeria read none of them. She sat in Don Ismael's storage room with the notebook on her lap, looking at the legal notice as if it were a dead insect. Adrian paced near the door. "We need to move the notebook." "I know." "To a lawyer." "No." "To a judge." "With what standing?" "I still do not have all my documents." "Then to my safe." Valeria looked up. "No." He stopped. "I can guard it." "You can guard the paper. Can you guard what people say it is?" Adrian had no answer. A knock came at the side door. Not Don Ismael's knock. Valeria closed the notebook at once. Adrian opened the door only a few inches. It was Sergio, the archivist. His face was pale. "I am sorry," he whispered. "I should not be here." Adrian pulled him inside. "What happened?" Sergio held out a small envelope. "I found something before they locked my access. A scan log. 3 pages from an internal Madrid appendix were printed 2 months ago, then deleted from the queue. The pages matched the type of paper found inside Señora Valeria's notebook." Valeria went still. Adrian turned to her. "There were Madrid pages in your notebook?" Her face changed. "Not guilt. Recognition." "Yes, but I did not take them from your archive." "Then where did they come from?" "Someone pushed them under my cart 3 weeks after I returned to Triana." "Why did you not tell me?" The question came out too fast. Valeria heard the speed before the words. For 1 second, Adrian saw how Marta's poison worked. Not by making him hate Valeria, by making him ask the wrong question at the worst time. Valeria stood. Because I was alone. Valeria. No. Let the question finish. Why did I not tell the husband I was not allowed to see? Why did I not report papers to a company that had erased me? Why did I not trust a house that put me outside without my identification? I did not mean it that way. But you asked it that way. Sergio lowered his eyes. Adrian stepped toward her. I believe you. Do you? She asked. Or do you believe me until a document looks inconvenient? The words cut the room open. Then the lights went out. A hard click. Darkness. Don Ismail shouted from the bakery. Valeria. Adrian reached for her, but a crash came from the cart outside. Metal struck stone. A tray fell. Someone ran. By the time they reached the market, the green awning was torn sideways. The cardboard sign lay in the gutter. The canvas bag had been ripped open. The notebook was gone. Don Ismail stood near the cart, breathing hard, blood at the corner of his eyebrow. I tried, he said. Valeria did not scream. That frightened Adrian more. She walked to the cart, picked up the torn piece of cloth that had wrapped the notebook, and held it in both hands. Around them, neighbors opened windows. Phones appeared again. Someone asked if she had hidden the evidence. Someone else whispered that maybe the company was right. Valeria turned to Adrian. Her face was white. You were afraid Marta would destroy me before you could stop her. He could not speak. She just did. Then she stepped away from him, into the dark edge of the market. This time, Adrian did not call her name. Because for the first time, he understood that finding Valeria had never meant he had earned the right to keep her. Valeria did not go far. Adrian found her behind the old fish stalls, where the market lights ended and the river wind came through the alley. She stood with one hand against the wall and the other under her stomach, breathing through pain that was not only physical. He stopped a few steps away. I will get it back, he said. Valeria did not turn. No. You will chase what Marta wanted you to chase. The notebook is gone. The notebook they saw is gone. Adrian heard the difference. Valeria finally faced him. Do you think I slept in a bakery for weeks and never learned from a baker? Don Ismail keeps copies of recipes because ovens burn, roofs leak, and people lie. They went back through the rear door, not the market. Don Ismail was sitting on a chair with a cloth pressed to his brow. He tried to stand when Valeria entered. She stopped him. Where is the tin? The old baker looked at Adrian, then at her. You are sure? No, Valeria said. But I am finished being careful for people who were never careful with me. Don Ismail reached beneath a loose floorboard near the flour shelves and pulled out a round biscuit tin, blue with rust at the lid. Inside were recipe cards, old photographs, folded receipts, and a small USB drive wrapped in wax paper. Adrian started. Valeria lifted the first photograph. Pages from the ledger. Not all of them. Enough. The pawn ticket. The early supplier list. The red-circled steel code. The strange Maria Azul billing address. Don Ismail had photographed them weeks earlier when Valeria applied for a small vendor loan and needed proof of her work history. I told you paperwork matters, Don Ismail said. Then he tapped the USB drive. And cameras matter too. The file came from the bakery's old security camera. Grainy, angled badly, but clear enough. It showed a motorcycle stopping near Valeria's cart 3 weeks after she returned to Triana. A gloved hand slid folded pages under the wheel lock. Those were the Madrid appendix pages. Not stolen by Valeria. Delivered to her. Then another clip. The same motorcycle returned the night the notebook vanished. Different jacket. Same damaged left mirror. Adrian leaned closer. Can we identify the plate? Don Ismail shook his head. Not fully. But the courier left something better. He opened a drawer and placed a delivery slip on the table. The rider had once delivered sealed envelopes to the bakery by mistake. Sender. Beltran Legal Communications. Marta. Before Adrian could speak, his phone began to ring. Sergio. Adrian answered. The archivist's voice came through in a whisper. Sir, they locked me out completely. There is an emergency board meeting in 40 minutes. Agenda says medical incapacity review. Adrian's face went still. Sergio continued. They are voting to suspend your executive authority. Marta is presenting the Madrid contract for final signature under proxy continuity. Adrian looked at Valeria. She is not hiding anymore, he said. Valeria took the tin from the table. Neither am I. The drive to Salcedo Group felt shorter than it should have. Outside the building, reporters were already waiting. Someone had leaked the meeting. Cameras turned when Adrian stepped from the car. Then Valeria stepped out beside him. The noise changed. Questions hit her like stones. Did you steal company documents? Is Luis Ortega the father of your children? Are you demanding money from Salcedo Group? Adrian reached toward her. Valeria did not take his arm. Not because she rejected him. Because she wanted them to see she could stand. She looked into the nearest camera. My name is Valeria Rios Salcedo. I am Adrian's wife. Luis Ortega is a social worker, and I am here because the people accusing me of stealing evidence are the same people who tried to steal my name. For 1 second, the reporters had no question ready. Inside, security tried to stop her. Adrian showed his identification. She is with me. The guard looked nervous. Sir, the board instructed that only authorized personnel. Adrian cut him off. My wife was denied authorization once. It will not happen again. They entered the elevator. For the first time that day, Valeria touched his hand. Only for a second. The boardroom doors were closed when they reached the top floor. Through the glass, Marta stood at the head of the table. Elena sat beside her, pale but silent. The directors watched a screen where Valeria's market photograph had been placed next to the word extortion. Marta's voice carried through the door. Adrian Salcedo is not medically fit to distinguish loyalty from manipulation. For the safety of the company, we must act before private guilt destroys public trust. A director asked, And the wife? Marta turned a page. Valeria Rios is already under legal notice. If she appears, security will remove her. Valeria heard every word. Adrian reached for the handle. She stopped him. No. He looked at her. Valeria held the blue tin against her chest. She said, if I appear, they will remove me. Then I appear first. Before he could answer, another door opened behind them. Elena stepped into the hallway. For the first time, she looked smaller than her pearls, smaller than her name. Valeria, she said. Valeria did not move. Elena's eyes dropped to her stomach, then to the tin. I did not know Marta would take it this far. Valeria's voice was quiet. You knew the gate code changed. Elena flinched. You knew I had no phone. A tear slipped down Elena's face. Yes. Then this far began with you. The boardroom fell silent behind the glass. Someone had opened the door just enough to hear. Elena covered her mouth. Valeria turned away from her and walked into the room. Every director looked up. Marta stopped speaking. For a moment, no one moved. Then Valeria placed the blue biscuit tin on the polished table. The sound was small, but it ended Marta's smile. Marta looked at the blue tin as if Valeria had placed a bomb among the water glasses. For the first time, she did not speak first. Valeria did. You called this extortion, she said, pointing to the screen behind Marta. So I brought the part you could not steal. One director leaned forward. What is in the tin? Copies, Valeria said, and proof of how the originals disappeared. Marta recovered her voice. This is a board meeting. She has no standing here. Adrian stepped beside Valeria. She is my wife. Marta smiled coldly. That is not a corporate title. No, Adrian said, but founder is. The room changed. Valeria looked at him. Adrian did not look away. Before Salcedo Group had an office, she kept the first records. She paid the first crew when I could not. She caught the steel batch that would have broken our first stairwell. If this company has a beginning, her hands are on it. A director whispered, Is that documented? Valeria opened the tin. She did not throw the papers across the table. She placed them down slowly. The pawn ticket for her mother's chain. The photograph of the butter-stained first contract. The supplier list with the red circle around SV-19. Then the matching image of the Madrid appendix. SB-19. The wrong code. Again. Marta lifted her chin. Old memories do not invalidate a national contract. No, Valeria said. But upload logs might. Adrian handed Sergio's printed metadata to the board secretary. Sergio stood near the door, pale but present. The Madrid authorization was uploaded while I was in a coma, Adrian said, from an account tied to Marta's legal team. Marta turned to Elena. Elena approved emergency continuity. Elena's lips trembled. I approved protection, she whispered. Not fraud. Marta's eyes hardened. Careful. That single word reached every corner of the room. Valeria inserted the USB drive into the boardroom computer. The image was grainy, angled badly, but clear enough. It showed a motorcycle stopping beside her cart. A gloved hand pushed folded pages under the wheel lock. That is how the Madrid appendix reached me, Valeria said. Not through theft. The next clip showed the same motorcycle on the night the notebook vanished. Same damaged left mirror. Same writer. Then Valeria placed the delivery slip beside the keyboard. Sender. Beltran Legal Communication. Silence spread. Marta did not deny it. She tried a different door. You cannot prove I ordered that delivery. Adrian took out his phone and played the full video from Triana Riverside Hotel, Conference Room B. Luis Ortega stood beside Valeria at a public assistance desk. A clerk stamped her temporary document request. The timestamp matched the clip Marta had shown at dinner. Adrian looked at the board. The video used to accuse my wife was cut before the public assistance desk appeared. The communications director covered his face. One director stood. We need outside counsel. Another said, freeze the Madrid contract. Marta looked from face to face and realized the room had left her. Valeria picked up the clinic form last. 3 heartbeats printed across the top. This was never about money, she said. It was about a name. Mine. My children's. And every person who helps build something then gets erased when the building becomes beautiful. Adrian turned to the board. I failed her. I let my company become a place where procedure sounded cleaner than truth. That ends now. He faced Marta. You are removed from all legal and communications authority, pending external investigation. The Madrid contract is suspended. Maria Azul Holdings will be reported to regulators. Every proxy authorization used during my coma will be audited. The board secretary began reading the emergency motion aloud. Suspend the Madrid contract. Preserve all files. Remove Marta from access. Contact outside counsel before sunset. Each sentence took a piece of power from Marta and placed it back where it belonged. Not in a mother's grief. Not in a lawyer's private folder. Not in a sealed file beside a hospital bed. In records that could be checked. In signatures that could be dated. In voices that could answer for themselves. Valeria listened without smiling. Victory did not feel like sweetness yet. It felt like air returning to a room that had been locked too long. Marta's smile was gone. This will damage the company. Adrian looked at Valeria. No, this may be the first honest repair we have ever made. Elena rose slowly. All eyes turned to her. She walked to Valeria, but stopped before getting too close. I changed the gate code, she said. I allowed your phone to be taken. I told myself I was protecting my son, but I was protecting my pride. Valeria did not reach for her. Elena accepted that. I cannot ask you to forgive me today. No, Valeria said. You cannot. Elena lowered her head. But I will say it where everyone can hear. You did not leave him. We pushed you out. That was the sentence the room had been avoiding for 7 months. Valeria closed her eyes. Not because the pain was gone, because it finally had a witness. Scene 1. The official record. 2 weeks later, Salcedo Group held a public conference in the same lobby where employees once lowered their eyes when Adrian returned. This time, Valeria entered through the front doors. No back entrance, no private hallway, no prepared apology that had not passed through her own hands. Adrian stood at the podium, thinner than before, but steady. The history of this company was incomplete, he said. Today, we correct it. Behind him, a screen showed the first contract on brown pastry paper. Then the red-circled steel code. Then a photograph of Valeria beside the old coffee cart. Valeria Rios Salcedo was part of the foundation of Salcedo Group from its first days. Her records, labor, judgment, and sacrifice kept this company alive before it had a name worth defending. He stepped away from the microphone, not to speak for her, to make room. Valeria stood before the employees and reporters. My name was not lost, she said. It was taken, and today I am taking it back. No one clapped at first. Then Sergio did. Then Inez. Then the sound filled the lobby. Scene 2. The cart. A month later, the green awning returned to Triana. The cart had been repaired, not replaced. Valeria insisted on that. The cracked counter stayed. The sugar bowl stayed. Even the cardboard sign was framed behind the cart. Coffee. Pastries. Pay when you can. Adrian stood behind the counter, awkwardly folding pastry paper. Valeria watched him ruin the first fold. Too loose, she said. He tried again. Too proud. He looked at her. That applies to more than pastry paper. For the first time, she laughed without pain. Don Ismail sat nearby with a bandage gone from his brow, and a new chair that everyone pretended was not a gift. Adrian placed one wrapped ensaimada into the hands of a young worker who counted coins twice. "Pay next time," Adrian said. Valeria looked at him. He added, "If there is a next time. If not, eat while it is warm." That was better. Scene 3. First stone. The children came early, just before dawn, as if they had inherited their mother's schedule. Matteo cried first. Lucia followed. The smallest, whom Valeria named Isabel after no one but herself, opened her eyes quietly and gripped Adrian's finger with impossible strength. Months later, when the first stone fund opened its doors, the old coffee ledger sat in a glass case near the entrance. Not as evidence anymore. As a beginning, the fund helped spouses, workers, and silent partners of small businesses claim wages, records, and legal names before success made them invisible. On the first morning, a young woman came in holding a folder against her chest. "My husband says the business was his idea," she whispered. Valeria, now carrying Isabel on one hip, opened the door wider. "Then let us find the first stone." That evening, Adrian came home to the apartment above Triana. Not the mansion, not the glass tower. Home. Valeria stood in the kitchen before dawn, warming milk while 3 cradles rested near the table. Adrian entered quietly, holding a tray of pastries dusted unevenly to the left. She looked at him. "You remembered." He placed the tray down and kissed her hand. "I am learning." Outside, the market shutters began to rise. Inside, the house was warm. And this time, no one had to keep it warm alone.